Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Rye Town Council meeting of February the 22nd, 2018. Please rise, and I'm going to ask our guest tonight, Dan Sarnoff, to lead us in the pledge. Go ahead, Dan.
Please remain standing. Heavenly Father, bless this assemblage, grant us the wisdom to make every decision fair-minded and in the best interest for all its residents. Amen.
Thank you, and please remain standing for a moment of silence for those murdered in Parkland, Florida, at the high school there, and also for the assistant principal at Portchester High School. What's his name?
Portchester Middle School, his name was Byron Womack.
Byron Womack. Please remain standing. Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Councilperson Lindsay Jackson.
Here.
Councilperson Thomas Nardi.
Here.
Councilperson Jill Axelrod.
Here.
Councilperson Anthony Baxter.
Here.
And Supervisor Gary Zuckerman.
Here. Our first item on the agenda tonight is a presentation from Dan Sarnoff, the Assistant Manager in the Village of Mamaroneck, regarding an update on the Hillside Avenue Bridge. Dan, the podium. Let me just say, preparatory to that, Hillside Avenue is a bridge that is jointly managed by the Village of Mamaroneck, the Town of Rye, and the Town of Mamaroneck. We applied for and got a grant. It was a grant applied for by the three municipalities. We got a grant for, I think it's $3.5 million to replace the bridge. And the lead agency in this is the Village of Mamaroneck, headed by Dan Sarnoff, and he's going to give us an update tonight.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Zuckerman. I did have a copy of a PowerPoint presentation. I believe you all have a copy. If anyone in the audience would like it, it's up there on the chair. I'm not going to go over everything in this PowerPoint. I think you have better things to do tonight than listen to me drone on for about 45 minutes. So I'll kind of give you the short version of the project. I was actually looking at my calendar today, and it's been 18 months since we've been working on this. When we first met, Supervisor Zuckerman, Ms. Reisner, myself, the former village manager of Mamaroneck, and the town of Mamaroneck about applying for a Bridge New York grant. As Supervisor Zuckerman noted, we did receive a grant from the DOT under the Bridge New York program. I wish it was $3.5 million. It was $3 million. So it's still a very large grant.
That's the projected cost is 3.5, correct?
Actually, we look like we're on budget, and you'll see later in the presentation.
Great.
The budgetary numbers. But we did receive the second largest grant in this region of New York State DOT. Little brief history. The bridge was constructed in 1936, and if you look at a couple of the pages in the PowerPoint, you'll see some historic photography of the village and where the Hillside Avenue Bridge is. And the first you really can't tell is from 1925, but you can see what it looked like back when, before there was a bridge there, or a traffic bridge. You'll see the old Hillside Avenue, and the other side, which is in the town of Mamaroneck, used to be known as Park Avenue. Then you turn the page, we have the map that the Village of Mamaroneck filed with Westchester County in 1936, showing what the new bridge layout was going to look like, showing the old road and the new bridge, and it even says bridge under construction. And then you look over, next page is what it looks like right now, as of 2016. So you can see a little brief history there for you. The existing conditions, the sidewalks on both sides of the bridge are in failing condition. They were actually blocked off to any pedestrians, and we've received a a flag from the DOT in our most recent studies. Just the next page just goes over the federal funding program and the various steps that we have to go through. We're in what's known as the Locally Administered Federal Aid Program, or LAFA, and it's not a laughing matter. Next page, the project objectives. This is largely taken out of some previous PowerPoints we've done with our engineer. And I highlighted the two biggest ones for what I see as the major components of this project. First is incorporate the Army Corps recommendations. The driving factor behind replacing this bridge is so that it will complement and enhance the benefits of a future Army Corps project, which has been proposed for the Mamaroneck and Sheldrake rivers, and provide real risk reduction, flood risk reduction to our residents. And then also respect the aesthetic and historic character of the bridge. Has the stone face, which is an architectural element. It looks like it's a arched bridge. It's really not. Those are just architectural elements on the bridge. It's really a rectangular bridge. The existing bridge, from an engineering perspective, is nothing fantastic. It is a normal bridge. As far as the design considerations to meet with the Army Corps project, we need to either maintain or increase the low chord elevation. So what the low chord elevation is the bottom point of the bridge, its height above the river. And we've done that with this. The second is to widen the bridge to the maximum extent practicable so we can comply and complement the Army Corps project. We have to provide deeper foundations for future dredging of the river. And as it relates to the historic context of the bridge, we would like to reuse the existing stone facing for the new structure as to the maximum extent practicable. And as we know, the roadway geometry has to remain the same. So in 1936, the two roads which were connected were not across from each other. It's a little skewed the way the bridge is built, and we have to maintain that.
Dan, why is that? That doesn't,
So-
everything else sounds good. That doesn't sound really smart.
Well, the reason is because there is a 66-inch sewer main on the town of Rye side of the bridge. And when the bridge was originally built, that sewer main was there. Had they connected around the other side, they would have had to build a new road over a newly installed 66-inch sewer main. And that just wasn't feasible back then, and it's really not feasible now. As far as the Army Corps recommendations, we've been in constant contact with the Corps. We have shared with them our designs, our thoughts on the project. We had an initial conference call with them back in September, and they advised us that we don't need to meet the exact width that they're looking to incorporate with the new river, or the widening of the river, but just get as wide as possible. So whereas there is going to be 45 plus or minus, we're looking at a width of 41 plus or minus on our bridge. We've also sent conceptual drawings to the Army Corps to make sure that it's in line with what their thoughts are. And I will quote their response to us from the end of January. The design looks great, and this alone should reduce some of the flooding upstream of this bridge. This should also combine well with the Corps' proposed channel modifications. Thanks for including all the recommendations we made. So, there was people have wanted to make sure that we are in constant communication with the Corps, and just want to let people know that we have been, and they are fully aware of what our intentions are. As far as the aesthetic and the historic character, as part of the Army Corps project, they had to perform what's known as a cultural resource study of the entire area that they're looking to work in, which is the Sheldrake and the Mamaroneck River. We would have had to have completed this with our own program. However, since the Army Corps already did it for us 5 years ago, it saved us a lot of time and energy having to do this section of the work. What they noted was that the bridge itself is eligible to be on the National Register of Historic Places. The surrounding properties, three of the surrounding properties, two of them have homes, one is the church. Per that report, none of those properties are eligible to be in the National Register. The fourth parcel is really the old roadbed of the old Hillside Avenue on the Mamaroneck side, which at the point was called Park Avenue. As noted, our project approach is to reuse as much of the stone facing as possible on the new bridge and the walls. We filed what's known as our Section 106 paperwork with the New York State Department of Transportation. So the DOT is going to work with the New York State Historic Preservation Office as it relates to making sure that this project is done in a historically sensitive manner. Also, the new bridge will have an arched opening, so we will maintain that type of aesthetic that we've seen and enjoyed for the past 80 years. The next page is just a picture of the current bridge on a nice, I believe, April or May day, showing what it looks like now. And since I don't have a real schematic or real drawing right now, but the following page is a architectural detail of what we expect it to look like. And you can see it does try to maintain that arched opening and reuse that stone facing to the maximum extent that we can. So that'll be an issue that we have to work with the DOT and SHPO. Just to go over a couple of important dates with the council. June 15th was the day that our master project agreement went into effect between the village and the state DOT. Per that agreement, we have 18 months in which to award a construction contract. So that brings us to December 15th of this year in order to achieve that goal. As far as the project schedule, we kind of laid out 5 major tasks to accomplish. The first is complete the draft design report by December 2017. We filed that with the DOT on December 22nd, 2017. Next is design approval and beginning final design, then final design for our review, and then plan specs and estimates for the state review, and then construction to begin winter 2018 through fall 2019. We are on target with this schedule at this point. We are waiting for comments from the New York State DOT on our draft design report. We had a meeting with our engineer yesterday. Councilman Nardi and Ms. Reisner were in attendance at the meeting, as they are for all of our monthly meetings. It was reported by our engineer that they hope to have the comments from the state within the next week or so. But, it's, all we can do is hurry up and wait at this point on the state. Next page, I think everyone wants to know budget. So we're looking at 2 phases right now. We have the design and right-of-way incidentals. Right now, we have a concrete cost on that of $315,605. That includes the work that our engineering consultant, Hudson Valley Engineering Associates, or HVEA, is doing, and also the right-of-way incidental work that we need to do. We have a company out of Rochester, New York, RK Height and Associates. They do this all the time. we're going to need to acquire property at 3 of the 4 corners of the bridge. We're talking minor pieces, probably less than, a couple of 100 feet for each location. So there's work that needs to be done with that.
Excuse me, Dan, have you gotten title reports? Who owns those pieces of property? Private owners?
Correct. And, the question came up with my board, well, can we get easements instead of acquiring? And the response that I also asked that question to our engineers, and they said if the state allowed us to do that, it would be the first time the state ever allowed it. So we have to acquire those properties.
Now, is the plan to acquire them through negotiation or through
Absolutely.
condemnation?
Well, I mean, the plan is always to, go through a negotiation first. I actually met with one of the property owners at, I think it's 641 Hillside. He would be the southeast corner of the bridge. We actually spoke with him for about an hour just about the bridge project in general. It was interesting. He didn't even know that he had an easement on the property that the county had from 80 years ago. So just getting back to the budget, we did receive a preliminary cost estimate in December of 2017 of $2,450,000. What's not included in this right now is the right-of-way acquisition costs and the construction inspection, construction management services. Given that we were already around $2,760,000, that leaves about $240,000 left for the acquisition and the construction inspection. What we're looking to do possibly is apply for a grant from Westchester County under their flood mitigation program to provide a couple extra dollars to take care of that, and also maybe even match our local provide our local matches for the project. Which, if that's the case, we're already talking about 50,000 apiece, so we can lower that to something lower than 50,000. I think that would make everyone happy.
Every dollar that we don't have to spend locally is a good dollar.
Yeah. So that's the brief version of the bridge project. And I just wanted to, thank Supervisor Zuckerman for initially getting us together to talk about the Bridge New York project. I know Ms. Reisner helped get a lot of the letters of support from our state and federal elected officials to help bolster the number of points we can get for our project.
And I just want to say that working with the Village of Mamaroneck, and I'm sure Tom, who's been at all the meetings, and Debbie will agree, has been a great experience. And when people talk about shared services and working together, this is a perfect example of three communities with a common goal and need, putting it all together and making it work. And I think that's great. And thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
And thank you to your Board of Trustees, to your former mayor, and to your current mayor, your former village manager, and your current
Thank
village
you.
manager. Everybody working together. Comments from the board, Tommy, especially you.
Well, it's just, it caught me a little off guard. I didn't expect, but, no, the meetings go really smooth. Everybody's working hard. It's really getting the feedback from the other agencies that takes all the time.
Yeah.
Our end goes out quickly, and then it's just sitting down waiting for everybody else. So, and I've worked with you with the other bridges when I was superintendent of highways.
Yeah.
Everything went smoothly with that.
Yeah.
So it
Just
goes,
so important.
it works, everybody helps each other and it goes smooth.
Thank you.
And I think this is a blueprint for possible future work. I've already spoken to Dan about looking at the other bridges because there's a new Bridge New York application process going on. I'm not sure that we have that kind of capital need for the other bridges, but we'll certainly look into it. Comments from the other council people?
Well, I just wanted to thank you and thank Supervisor Zuckerman and Debbie and Councilman Nardi for following up with this bridge. I know it's, as a Village of Mamaroneck resident, it has been an issue for some time. In fact, about 20 years ago when I was born, I'm joking.
It's actually 22 years ago.
Yeah, right. But I had lived on Hillside Avenue, so it's definitely a special place. But I also wanted to commend you for taking into account the Army Corps of Engineers' suggestions and sort of incorporating it with that flood mitigation project, because that area of Mamaroneck, I mean, gets decimated whenever
Absolutely.
there's a big storm, and I've seen it.
Yeah. I mean,
For-
even from what I've heard from the Corps, if the project never happened, this would still provide flood benefits for the local residents.
Yeah.
Just have one more thing. Our superintendent of highways is informed by emails. I mean, he had a rough time with the death of his wife and then the death of his father. So he's had a rough couple of months.
Yeah.
And, but he is notified and he's up to date on everything that's going on.
And Mr. DiCrescenzo does call me usually once, twice a month for an updates on the bridge, so I'm more than happy to talk to him about that.
Great.
I'm
Right.
just curious, because when you discuss the width, I know the Army Corps of Engineers is looking to increase the width of the Mamaroneck River to about 45 feet.
Correct.
And they said that you only had to do the bridge to about 41 feet?
Well, getting as wide as we would need to get because of all the work on the abutments,
Okay.
we don't wanna get entangled with the county sewer main.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 66-inch main. That is a serious piece of county infrastructure which we want to avoid any entanglements with. So the Corps was okay with not going as far as they were going with their widening.
Okay, great.
Do you want to mention the Waverly Bridge project?
Sure. So
Maybe use the mic there.
I don't know if any of you have ever seen this interesting stipulation that we are all involved with. The town of Mamaroneck, town of Rye, Village of Mamaroneck, Village of Portchester, and Village of Rybrook. There is paragraph 15 in the stipulation, which we can provide to you. It says something to the effect that for any of the bridges identified in the agreement, included the Waverly Avenue Bridge, which is the responsibility of the town of Mamaroneck, any grant application that's applied for needs to be jointly supported by the Village of Mamaroneck, Town of Rye, Village of Portchester, and Village of Rybrook, which is an interesting, situation for a bridge in a municipality you have no jurisdiction over, and residents who would not have to provide any funding for. But, we came across the same issue with the Bridge New York grant, so I had to actually go back to the the Village of Rybrook and Village of Portchester to get resolutions and letters of support, and, their thoughts were, are you telling me I have to provide support for you for a bridge I have no financial responsibility for? I don't have a problem with that, but we will have to, at some point, if the town does apply for the Bridge New York grant for the replacement of the Waverly Avenue Bridge, all our municipal entities will need to provide some form of resolution or letter of support to them per the stipulation.
We don't have any problem with that. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
In fact, we would have passed it already tonight if we knew about it before.
Yeah, no, I had a conversation with the town engineer of Mamaroneck a couple weeks ago, and then we had our monthly meeting yesterday, so I informed Ms. Reisner and Councilman Nardi of the pending application from the town, and when the town engineer came, he also made mention of it, so.
All right, great. Question, anybody else? Nope. And while I'm looking at this, because Tony, I know you have paper, but my laptop just froze.
Paper doesn't freeze.
There is that. I mean, Dan, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for
you go.
coming.
Thank you.
Just in case.
Oh, wait, there's one here too.
No, that's okay. I've memorized the whole agenda. No, just kidding. Dan, thank you. Do you
Thank
have
you
any
very much,
questions of us?
I have no questions for you. I just want to thank you for your continued support of this project and for helping initiate the grant process and being an active participant in seeing this project through its fruition.
Thank you again.
Okay, and if you ever have any
Again, thank you,
questions, you can always call
thank
me.
you to your mayor and your board of trustees.
Thank you.
Next item is comments from the public. Do we have anybody from the public that wishes to speak on non-agenda items? If not, adoption of minutes. We have minutes from a meeting of January the 10th and a special meeting on February the 1st. Are there any comments or additions to the minutes? If not, may I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Resolutions, we have a presentation from the Rybrook and Portchester Soccer Clubs. Gentlemen? This is the hardest part. See, I rebooted it.
Hi, my name's Tony Paterno. I'm I'm a member of the board of the Rybrook Youth Soccer Club. We're the local youth soccer club in the village of Rybrook. For our weekday practices, in the afternoons, our teams are ages kindergarten through about 8th grade or so use Crawford Park on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And we were asked, and I'm here representing the board, really to make ourselves available and answer any questions you had about how we facilitate drop-off and pickup and parking and those sorts of things as a club, and how we handle that with our parents and players and coaches and so forth. So
You've done this for many years.
we certainly have, yes. I believe we've been using Crawford Park for about 20 years. That's how old our club is. I know about a year or so ago, it was brought to our attention issues around drop-off and pickup and access on the road, and that our most challenging time was in between sort of our first session and our second session of the players. What we did starting this past fall, 2017, I guess, was put a 15-minute window in between our two sessions so that sort of all the, one group could be cleared out before the other group's parents started to come and drop off their kids. It's my impression that that helped alleviate much of the issue, but I'm certainly open to hearing anything else that anybody, or any concerns or questions anybody has. We communicate with our parents in terms of, you know, the emails that go out every season and a few reminders about drop-off and pickup roles and responsibilities and rules, field use and trash and litter. That's all
Do
posted
you
on our
send
website as
all
well.
of that to the village as well?
We do.
From the town?
We do. I believe it's sent to Ms. Valentine.
Okay.
But I'm certainly happy to get it to you again if somebody needs it.
Well,
And-
Ms. Valentine's with the town. Are you asking about the
No,
town
no,
or
no.
the village?
I meant, yes. I was also going to ask about the village in terms of police protection. Are they aware of your schedules, the Rybrook Police Department?
Yes, they are.
Okay. I have one other question. Anybody from the council wish to speak to this at all?
So I know Portchester's Club is coming up. Is this a joint application? In other words, do you all work together
So,
and coordinate practice
We're
times?
two
and-
different clubs and two different entities, two different boards and whatnot. It's my understanding, and forgive me, I'm not the one that generally manages our application process, that we sort of present to the town jointly, really as a matter of convenience, to just kind of show everybody how all the schedules lay out Monday through Saturday. Again, my club uses it Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I think Portchester has a different schedule. And that schedule is provided to the town as well in terms of the fields we use, because I know there are a number of different fields around Crawford Park, so which specific ones we use and at what times, and so forth.
All right, one other item. There is a possibility that we are going to be totally reconstructing the baseball field.
Okay?
And if that is the case, you will not be permitted to use that area. Is that a problem? The infield area, is that going to be a problem for you?
For us, the infield, no. So we use, I have the field numbers, but effectively left field, center field, and right field. We're not on the infield dirt
Right.
around the bases or the backstop or
Right,
any of that.
that's what we're concerned about.
Yeah, we are not
Okay.
in that area. So as long as there's,
And Portchester as well?
Hi, good evening. My name is David Hidalgo. I'm covering for Brian Diaz. He's the person that was supposed to be here. I'm not fully aware about the situation, but what I can say is that we're under actually the town of Rybrook, and we follow all their directions regarding the use of the
All right,
park.
that's fine.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that during the course of, you know, the various field use, that you're aware, if you had used the infield before,
yeah,
not that you necessarily want to be on that skin field.
Right.
There's a substantial possibility that that field will be reconstructed in the next less than a year.
yeah, we're not on the infield.
Okay.
As long as there wasn't heavy equipment sort of in the outfield as part of the construction, I don't think.
It won't be there.
Yeah.
But there is gonna be a lot of construction going on when you guys are there. So it's gonna be really important to really having the people watch the kids, you know?
Understood.
And I think, to amplify what Tommy was saying, I think that you need to take the people, yourselves, and the other people who are in charge of the organization, to have a meeting with the construction manager,
Okay? Sure.
because to see where they're going to be setting up. What their schedule will be the primary. They may be setting up heavy equipment in certain areas. I don't think it's really going to impact your field use,
Yep.
but there will be equipment there, and kids have a tendency to want to play on big trucks and tractors
Yeah.
and steam shovels and that kind of stuff. So that has to be carefully looked at, and your parents instructed, and everybody aware of the fact that for the period from March to the end of the year
Okay.
is going to be a construction zone.
And would we follow up with Ms. Valentine to get that contact information and then we
Okay.
could facilitate that?
All right, very good.
And let me just ask a question. I understand Rybrook practices what is it, Tuesdays, Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I'm assuming that Portchester is Wednesdays, Tuesdays.
Yeah, so these are ours. Okay, so we're practicing Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays.
Okay, so that would leave the weekend sort of for other, if they needed to
Right.
use the ball field.
I'm sorry, on Saturdays as well,
So,
with the use of on the weekends for the traveling games during the morning and some afternoon times. But like the manager said, we're just on the part that is the large and small soccer fields.
Yeah.
So we're not in that part of the baseball infield section. So
All right, good. Debbie, I know that there was a question last year that other people wanted to use the fields. Have we gotten any communication from other groups, like from lacrosse or things like that?
No, nobody's been in touch,
Okay,
except for the groups that want to play on the baseball diamond.
okay. Very
And when
good.
does your season run from?
We start our games, first game's April 8th, so our first practices will probably start the last week in March, most likely, and then through the middle of June. I think the last game is Sunday the 17th, so that week prior would be
Okay.
our last week practice.
So that,
we just follow the
so that you're not operating through the summer, basically
No,
through the
right.
end of the school year?
That's correct.
Okay,
yes.
very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Jill? Okay,
Almost.
So
I'm
permission is granted?
out. Yeah,
permission is granted.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank,
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Okay. You guys do a great job with the kids too, though.
Thank you.
All right. Getting into the resolution part of the agenda, we have first resolution reappointing Dolph Brookfield Engineering as our engineer of record for, and this also goes with Arconics, the architect, to do engineering work that may be required in the town. May I have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? It's similar to what we did 2 years ago. Please call the roll. Hope?
Councilperson Jackson,
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi,
Yes.
Councilperson Axelrod,
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. And a similar resolution appointing Arconics Architecture, that's Gary Gianfrancesco, as for general architectural consulting services for the town. May I have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Any further discussion?
Just one question.
Sure.
So this is as needed, right? Both
This is as
and,
needed.
And Dolph? As
Yes,
needed?
yes.
And we would call them, and these are the rates that we would pay in the event that we
That,
needed to
that is
avail
correct,
ourselves.
as opposed to something like,
Set, right.
for Gary, for example, doing Crawford, which
Right.
is a separate contract. If
Okay.
we called on Dolph to look at something, for example, if we needed him to look at the bridges,
Bridges,
Yep.
yeah.
for example, he would do it under this.
Okay.
All right? Call the roll, please.
Councilperson Jackson,
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi,
Yes.
Councilperson Axelrod,
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. And now we come to the fun part, the resolutions regarding the homestead base proportions. Denise, I know this is your baby. Do you or Jeff wish to explain what a homestead base proportion actually is?
Okay, well, when a community does a reval, or do you want to address it, Jeff, or should let me?
No, I think
Okay.
you should do it.
When-
I have no idea why I was throwing it out. That's okay.
Just wanted to check.
I mean, I could try.
When a community does a reval, the residential class tends to pick up more of the burden, the tax burden. So if a community opts to adopt the homestead option, then there's a shift so that the commercial properties pick up a little bit more of the tax burden. So there's a level playing field, and then there's a shift, and that gets addressed every year. And in the end, over time, I don't know exactly how much time, the burden should level out to go back to where it was, unless you have a reval, and then it starts all over again.
And
So,
of course, we are going to be doing a revow so that nobody's taken by surprise in the coming year or so.
right. So, every year, we have to calculate these proportions, and basically what I've done in the past is just read the figures, and then you can agree to adopt them.
Let me just add one thing. I think, and I hope I'm correct, I'm gonna give it a shot, because I handle tax certiorari matters. So when there's a commercial tax certiorari case, and the assessed value is adjusted, let's say downward, and there's refunds, and it's a commercial case, the impact of that shift, or the impact of the reduction in the assessed value, does not affect the homeowners. It only affects the properties in the commercial class. Okay. So I think that, you know, that's why we have these shares, proportions. And you want to add anything to that? Okay.
It's actually a very complicated formula that is used to calculate these, but it's in accordance with New York State law. So it takes last year's assessment roll in its various forms and looks at this year's assessment roll and what happened in 2004, and that's how we come up with these proportions.
And this is very important, and we do it at this time of the year because the villages and the school districts are working on their budgets. The village, I believe, if I recall correctly, has to pass their budget by April 30th, and the school budget is voted on in May. So they have to calculate the tax rates for the residential and commercial properties based on these homestead-based proportions. And just as an illustration, the difference between Rybrook / Blindbrook and Portchester Village and School is, obviously, we all know that the Village of Portchester has many more commercial properties than does the Village of Rybrook. So I'm just taking a quick look at the Blindbrook School District, and the homestead-based proportion is 79% residential and 21% commercial. On the other hand, looking at the Portchester schools, you see how quickly I could jump from one to the other on my laptop?
I got you, I got you. If it's not frozen.
If it's not, but I got it rebooted. The proportions in the Portchester School District are
Much closer.
54% residential and 46% commercial, much closer, so that the commercial properties in Portchester bear a much greater proportion of the tax burden than do the commercial properties in
Because there are more of them.
Rybrook, Blindbrook.
Right.
So, with that being said, do we have any questions from the council members?
I just wanted to ask, because I'm going through the list here of the different resolutions. I see Blindbrook School, Portchester Schools, Rhinebeck Schools. But then there's the Village of Portchester and the Village of Rybrook. And, you know, the town of Rye. There's no Village of Mamaroneck, is that?
Because they did not adopt it.
Okay.
They had elected not to adopt it
Okay.
when they
And
gave up
also,
their
and
assessment
I asked an
status.
earlier question that I received, thank you Denise, by text from Denise and Jeff. I questioned the Harrison School District because we have a very small part of the Harrison School District that's located in the Village of Rybrook, and they do not have the Homestead
Correct. They-
Act as well.
Right.
So this only applies to those communities that have enacted the homestead option, which is the town of Rye.
Correct.
And I know these numbers don't change significantly from year to year.
Right.
from doing this last year. I think last year you had given us, though, a breakdown of the last few years and what the proportions were. I didn't see that in here this year, but I would just ask going forward, I think that's helpful to have a comparison based on what last year's was and what the years before was, just so we can see the trend, you know,
Okay.
how it's trending.
Okay, I do have paper copies of that,
Okay.
if you'd like it before we leave. But yeah, it is interesting. And I was looking at the year-over-year change, and it was interesting how it followed what happens in the market also, because you're looking at what's called equalization increases or market increases, market decreases, quantity increases, which means new construction, and quantity decreases, meaning demolitions, fires, that kind of thing. So all of that is calculated in this formula. And so you can, I did the year over year today, and it was interesting how in, an increasing market, the values seemed to go one way, and then a decreasing market, they were trending another way. And it happens this year that all of the homestead figures went down and all of the commercial figures went up proportionately.
Okay.
By a little bit, but that was the overall trend this year.
Okay.
So, but I'll be happy to give those out at the
Thank
end
Of course,
the
next year you'll be able to look back on this year on your iPad.
Of course. Oh, we don't miss a beat.
Never.
Okay, so would you like me to just read the proportions?
No,
No? Perfect.
no, we have them all in front of us.
Awesome.
Is what you're gonna read different than what we see?
No?
That's good, because we'd be in trouble if it were.
Well, just
So
what you
we
see,
have-
what you see
Jeff,
is what
can
you
we-
get.
Can we do all of these resolutions, homestead-based proportions, in one motion? Or do we need to do separates?
Same question from last year. I asked, last year I advised you to do them separately.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay, let's take them one at a time. The resolution regarding the homestead-based proportions for the Blind Brook School District. May I have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Homestead-based proportion for the Portchester School District.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Homestead-based proportion for the Rhinebeck School District.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Rhinebeck graduate that you were.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Homestead-based proportion for the Village of Portchester.
Go on, Jill.
Oh, I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Village of, homestead-based proportion for the Village of Rybrook.
I'll make that motion too.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the homestead-based proportion for the Town of Rye.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you, Denise. You may stay up there. We have a resolution for 16 Birch Lane in Rybrook. Tax certiorari. Jeff, do you want to go over the legalities of this?
This is a very, very small tax cert matter that was brought by the petitioner's representative, who was an attorney who commenced this case different from most cases that involve a single-family home. Most of those cases go through the SCAR process. This case was brought as like a commercial case with a petition and basically a lawsuit. It's a very small refund to the Village of Rybrook, about $1,000, $1,400. The Village of Rybrook budgets for this and was aware of this, so there's no issue. The school district has been made aware of the potential refund as well, of the Blind Brook schools.
Which is about how much?
Which is about $4,000. So, relative to what we've just done over the last couple of months, these are basically
Yeah,
peanuts.
and they have, obviously, the Blind Brook School District is represented by council, so they're completely aware of it, and it's council's responsibility to communicate with the school district. Jeff has been in direct communication with the Village of Rybrook. and there is agreement to go forward with this. So, you haven't heard from council yet for the school district?
No, not yet. but-
Okay. We can pass this contingent upon hearing it from them. I don't think there's gonna be any problem, because it's not
Right.
mandatory that, this gives us the authorization to settle it, right?
Correct.
Okay. That being said, any questions from the council on this? If not, may I have a motion in a second?
Do we know when this action was initiated?
It's a 2016 case.
Yeah, it's a
It was
very,
So it's,
2016. It was based on a sale price.
okay,
And in the residential realm of the court, a valid sales price is the highest indicator of value. So it was reduced, and I also was able to reduce the 2017 assessment roll to avoid any further refunds.
so this would just be for 1 year?
Well, the refund itself is for 1 year. There were 2 years of assessments that were reduced.
Okay.
All right. Motion in a second, please.
Make the motion.
Second.
On this one, let's call the roll.
Councilperson Jackson,
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi,
Yes.
Councilperson Axelrod,
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. Next, thank you, Denise.
You're welcome.
Much
Thank you.
appreciated. And just following up, we are continuing to have discussions with both villages and both school districts in conjunction with the preparation of their budgets going forward, so that everybody is aware of any potential tax settlements that are coming up. And in fact, our next meeting is regarding Rybrook properties on March the 1st. And this is in addition to our now quarterly meetings that we will have on a regular basis. So just point of information for everybody. The next resolution is to award an abatement and demolition contract for the Crawford Community Center. And we have in our packet the analysis from Arconics, that Vinco Builders is the low bidder, and also the fact that Vinco was the contractor that very satisfactorily completed the pavilion renovation. So Arconics has complete confidence in that firm. And just to bring everybody up to date, previously we had awarded contracts to place the electric lines underground through conduit, and also to upgrade the water system. That work is currently ongoing, and it's a good thing we're doing it, because Debbie advised me the other day that some tree branches fell on our electric lines at Crawford Park, and we were out of service for most of the day before it was restored. And when this work is complete, we're never gonna have to worry about that again, and that's one of the reasons that we're doing this. So this contract is the next one up, and it is for the demolition and abatement of the interior of the mansion. May I have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any questions, guys?
How is this
Counsel?
funded? Is this part of the grant?
No, this is under our bond.
This is unbundled.
Yeah. We've spent all the grant money.
Okay.
And then the actual construction, the bids will go out around, or should come in around March 23rd and be awarded around April 22nd,
Yeah,
right?
I have a construction meeting tomorrow morning. All of you are invited to attend if you so desire at 9 o'clock with Arconics. We meet weekly and mostly on Thursday, but this week's is on Friday. And we're gonna be discussing when the next bids will be issued, which I believe will be very, very soon. And that bid will be for the general construction, and that's gonna be the big one. That's gonna be for the elevator, for the windows, for the doors, for the stairs, for the kitchen, et cetera. So that is going to be going out very shortly, and I think, Lindsay, you're correct, it's gonna be returnable sometime in March. Okay, so with this one, please call the roll.
Councilperson Jackson, Councilperson Nardi,
Yes.
Councilperson Axelrod,
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. Next resolution is for a photographer for the Crawford Community Center, and the following one is for a graphic designer. And we're not gonna do these separately, but we can we're not gonna do these together, but Debbie, can you discuss both of these resolutions and what we're trying to achieve?
Yes, the photography resolution is to document the work that we're doing at Crawford Park, largely, to create a record of what the mansion looks like now. And then as the project develops and finalizes, to take photographs of the project as we have the final product. In addition to that, our photographer has indicated that he's available if we should come up with something else for him to photograph. He's given us a rate that,
Now, is he going to get a lot of the architectural detail, the fine detail and the molding, a lot of the historical sort of aspects of the building, the fixtures, et cetera, to document as well? Or is he more of a widespread?
this is specifically architectural photography.
Okay.
Does that
Yeah, so
answer
he'll
your-
get a lot of the historical.
Yes, yes, and we've had, I have to say that we've had a series of people taking pictures of the mansion interior. The Friends of Crawford Park have had a couple of photographers in there as well. So I think we've got a very generous record of details through a variety of eyeballs.
Yeah, but this one is the most professional, and in your packet, I think we had the resume, et cetera, that he had submitted. So, I think we're fairly confident, and the price is very reasonable. It's $1,000. And, to get a historical record over the next, hopefully just 9 months when the construction starts. We're hoping that it'll be done by the end of the year. That's our goal. And it'll be a permanent record for the town of Rye. And it'll also be great in case we ever wanna go out for grants to show the work that we did. We'll have a record of that.
Also, what about the ball field? Would he be taking pictures if the ball field gets redone before and after with the ball field? Would we do something like that too, or?
Based on my interview with Mr. Buchanan and a look at his photographs, I think he'd be happy to document whatever we ask him to.
Okay, cool.
He's indicated that he's in for it.
Yeah, because
You
I
know,
think it'd be nice, because the way the ball field looks now is just hideous.
It's a very
and
good point. Thank you
and-
for reminding me.
And it would really look, to have it redone and have pictures of it before and after, I think it'll really
Right.
do it justice.
Yeah, I imagine
Debbie,
that would.
Do you wanna, since we're on the subject, just a brief summary of what we're looking to do with the ball field and the fact that we may be getting a donation for that?
I think it might be premature to announce it publicly.
Okay, we're working on something to get the ball field done.
Yes.
Okay.
And now, the $1,000 for Mr. Buchanan, that'll be coming out of the cost for the project or more general?
I think that's a question that Davy Burns will have to answer at some point,
Ah,
as to how it's allocated, whether it's a capital improvement that can come out of the bonding, or will be in another,
Community communications line.
yeah.
yeah.
That's something for the accountants and the controller to determine.
And as far as the product goes, I mean, I know we're getting pictures, but is there a certain number of pictures? Is there a certain number of hours that he's committed to working? In other words, the rate is the rate. We're paying him $1,000.
Right. I
What is
I
it?
sent him a list of rooms that I wanted documented, and that's pretty much how we quantified it.
I think if he's doing so much work that he thinks that he's being overburdened, we can revisit this. I don't think that, to me, just the price of $1,000 to document construction over a period of close to a year is a very reasonable price, and I think, we can look at it as we go along.
Okay. I just think in general, it's important to have some sort of measurement. Not necessarily for this, but it's a good practice to have what
You're
the
right.
expectation is coming out the other end.
I don't disagree, although in for those of us old enough to remember actual film,
Yeah.
we used to look at contact sheets and we would see thousands of photographs, tiny little ones, right? And then of those, we would only choose to enlarge the good ones. So it's
Well,
hard to
going along with
quantify it that
I
way.
think that quantifying is good, but I would prefer to quantify in terms of hours, because with digital photography, it doesn't really cost anything and take any more time to do 20 photographs as opposed to 2.
I agree.
Yeah.
So-
At the end of the day, for my purposes of measuring, I gave him a specific list of the spaces in the mansion that I want. He's got to get them right.
Okay.
All right, good. Motion and a second, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Councilperson,
favor?
okay.
Aye.
Aye.
And the next one is
Graphic
a
design.
graphic designer. Do you want to tell us what that's about, Debbie?
So we've inherited Angie Barrero from Judy Eisenberg, our grant writer. Angie has worked with Judy for years, and we've actually seen her work. We just didn't know we saw her work because any kind of graphics, PowerPoint presentations that Judy had produced on behalf of our grants was produced by Angie. Now that Judy has moved on, we have inherited Angie, and she is fast, she is efficient, and she's extremely reasonably priced. So I'd like to continue using her services. She also has a lot of our graphics on her computer. So, for example, the other day when I needed the graphic map of Rye Town Park edited because Seaside Johnny's was no longer the name of the restaurant, it came back in 20 minutes. And she divided her time.
Yeah.
Her hourly rate was subdivided.
So would her work specifically be dealing with grants? Or
No.
is she going to be doing graphic design
I will
for
call on
whatever
her-
we ask her to do?
Exactly.
And this
When-
is something that can only be done by her? Or is it something that can be done here or in-house? I'm just trying to
It
distinguish
can't be done,
between
well,
what she does.
I don't have
versus-
anybody on staff who could do what she does in-house
Okay.
as quickly or as efficiently as she does it. Certainly, if we can do it ourselves, I'd much rather do that than pay anybody anything more than our staff is already earning. But I think she's got skills that we don't have.
Okay.
Whether we can do it with a local designer, I'm certainly willing to entertain that.
Again, I think that this rate
Yeah.
Yeah.
is very reasonable.
You're not gonna get anybody lower. You have
And
graphic
this is as
design.
needed as well, right?
This is as needed.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it's only
it's not
as
like we're
needed.
paying somebody hourly to sit in a room. This will be only when, as, and if the work is required.
Good.
It's kind of like what we did with the architect and the engineer. When we need somebody, we have somebody that we have a resolution that we can call on to do professional work.
Yep.
And there are no benefits involved, et cetera.
Yep.
Okay? May I have a motion in a second?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This one is one of my favorites. I am so happy to do the next resolution. This is awarding a contract with the New York State Industries for the Disabled. The background of this is that several months ago, I requested Ann Capisi, our court clerk, to apply for a JCAP. That's the
Justice Court Assistance Program.
Justice Court Assistance Program. Thank you, Hope. Which gives grants only to justice courts for things that they need. Part of the grant was, for example, for a new copier. Part of the grant was for those, what do you call it? Those podiums that are sitting under there for the use of the town court to, they have new microphones so that the proceedings can be heard by everybody sitting in the courtroom. Some people may remember that we've had requests that be done, and this grant is providing the funds for it. But the largest part of the grant is to digitize all of the court records of the current judges, going back to their inception as judge, which John Colangelo, I believe, is 31 years, and Tony Provenzano is about 20 years. We have in the court system, most of which is now in the basement of Grace Church Street, boxes upon boxes upon boxes of court records that sit there. These will be digitized at no cost to the town. We will be also shortly in the future going into a laserfish system, which will enable us, or at this point the judges, to research and search any requests that be made for those records. And then the records, the paper records, according to the Office of Court Administration standards, will then be able to be destroyed, and we will no longer have to have floor space for those records. This is in keeping with the program that we initiated at the outset of this administration to move into the 21st century and digitize all the records of the town. We have a grant pending for the town clerk to digitize her records as well. And an interesting fact is that Hope, our terrific clerk, Smile Hope, has judicial records that do not include the records of the current judges. Under state law, all active judges have custody of their own records. But once that judge is no longer a judge through retirement, death, loss of election, etc., those records become the property of the town clerk for custody. So we cannot use a JCAP grant to digitize those records. So we're hoping to get a Department of State grant to do the same. And those records go back, I don't know how far, because theoretically they go back to the creation of the town of Rye.
Right.
And we're trying to digitize those as well.
And the criminal records are permanent records.
Right. Well, right. Actually, the civil records can be destroyed after 25 years. The criminal records are permanent. However, even the civil records, once we digitize them, there's no reason to destroy them because they're going to be on microfiche in a computer, backed up in the cloud somewhere, and all according to the standards set by the state. And this is a program that we're moving forward with, and hopefully we'll get completed fairly soon. In addition to the court records, obviously, both current and previous, we're looking to digitize birth records, death records, marriage records, everything else that we have. And we're also attempting as much as we can to stop the creation of paper records by having all new forms created digitally. Whether we're talking about forms to rent Crawford Park or ride Town Park, or make applications of different kinds for different licenses or whatever. We're trying to create those digitally so that paper will not be used in the first place, and they'll be much easier to search. Even such things as you saw today, the representatives from the soccer leagues come forward. Somebody has to, at this point, take a piece of paper and determine which league is using which field at which time. This is all going to be done digitally, and it'll be open. And as much of this as we can is going to be put on the website. So if somebody wants, I know I'm digressing a bit, but if somebody wants to rent Crawford Community Center for a birthday party, they'll be able to go on the website and see which dates are available. They'll be able to rent the facility, make their deposit, and do everything online without the need to come into the office with a piece of paper and possibly somebody messing up that this date is taken or not taken. So that is the goal.
Could I just
Sure.
explain to the board? Marriage, death, and birth records are secure records. They're not allowed to be for public access. But the fact that we have those records that go back to, like, for instance, someone called today for a birth of 1888, and we had that record. But those hardcover books are our only source of finding those records. So I feel it's important that we have them digitized, and in case of ever a disaster or.
Are those the books that we have rebound?
Yes.
The ones we've been having rebound?
Yeah, we had a lot of them
Yeah, because we,
refurbished, you
Yeah,
know, and
And
treated.
What we've been working with is Linda Bull at the Department of State, the archivist, because, and I've said this at previous meetings, but it bears repeating. There are some books that are historical of nature.
Right.
They date back literally into the 1600s. And those books are historically significant just by the very fact of their age and what they contain.
Right, but they're also permanent records.
And they're permanent
right.
records. But those are not books that we want to refer to all the time. Those are books that we want to keep as an archive and as a history. But to retrieve the records, if we did, as Hope just said, if we digitize those records, then they're retrievable instantaneously
Yes.
through Laserfiche. And we will have them. And also, we were, I don't mean to interrupt you,
That's
Tommy,
fine.
let me just finish.
Yep.
We were all, Hope, Debbie, I, Sarah, Neva, were at the Association of Towns meeting earlier this week. And we went to a lot of breakout groups. And one of them was actually on digitization of records, court records, and he said something very interesting. Actually, the seminar was on the interrelationship between the town and the court system, the justice court. But he said something very interesting. He said, you know, you want to maintain these records, and the best way to maintain them is to digitize them, because we have so many times, we have justice courts where they get flooded or suffer other problems, and then they are irretrievably lost. He said, we can retrieve them if you call us within, 10 hours or so, but if you wait 8 weeks, they're gone.
Right. We did
And-
have that happen.
Right, and we had that, we had a flood at 10 Pearl Street.
freeze-dried and,
And when we digitize those records and we want to keep them permanent, those records will stay forever, and we won't have to worry about them getting destroyed.
yes.
So, Tommy, you had something?
yeah, with the books that you had, like saying from the 1600s and 1700s, I had actually found a restorer that actually uses non-electrical equipment. So everything is done back from like the 1800s, where everything is done by hand. So not only are the books getting refurbished, but they're going almost to exactly how they were when they were first made.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
He's
this way,
cleaning them,
it's-
he's sewing them.
Yeah.
His
It was
dad did it, and he's an older
Yeah.
gentleman right now.
It was
so.
really amazing seeing his place where he has like literally 2 light bulbs in his shop and everything is all done by hand.
But right now, our records from 1992 until this present time are electronic, so that helps. When we have to retrieve
Right, right.
certifications.
Now, as far as the cloud and, putting it, digitizing everything, what about the security
Well,
for
that-
those records?
That has to be maintained according to the standards, if they're court records, to the Office of Court Administration sets standards, and for other records, the Department of State sets standards. They have record retention programs. This will all be done according to what the law requires, and it'll be backed up and double backed up according to whatever standards
We're
that the state
required
demands.
to keep
Yeah.
one on site
Yeah.
and another copy off-site.
So, I
So
mean,
this resolution is for the court records, correct?
that is correct.
Okay, so could I just ask a question about this resolution?
I know what you're gonna ask, and you may ask it.
If you know it already.
His
then we don't
iPad
have to
told
ask
him.
it.
You think I can't read your mind?
No, I know you can.
Because
So-
you're asking why it says Rye Town Court in the town of Rye.
No, that's not what I would say.
Oh, I didn't read your mind.
Throwing
Okay,
you a
go.
curveball. So I know we're allowing a maximum of $30,000, and I see that there were 2 grant, I guess there's 1 grant, and they're 2 different amounts, and I'm just wondering what the discrepancy is. It talks about a grant of $19,566.90, which includes, I guess, 15.5 for this project.
Correct.
So where will the balance of the 30 come from?
Well, actually, I
It
don't
was
even,
the podiums and a copier, that other things
Okay.
that the court asked for.
No, but
So that's, right, so I understand that, so,
no, that's a good question, because I don't know where the 30,000 comes from either. Because the 15.5 is for the digitization.
Right.
And the other 4 is
Just
for
for
the.
the podiums and things.
Is for the podium and the copier.
So-
Greg prepared this. I'm not sure where the 30,000 came into. We'd have to ask him.
Now, why are we doing, it says the Rye Town Court in the town of Rye, but this is only for the Rye Town Court.
That's correct.
So why don't we just eliminate "and the town of Rye" from paragraphs 1, 2,
In fact, Ann felt that should have been revised, and the town of Rathmore.
okay? So just take that out.
Okay. And that was
And, the New York State Industries for the Disabled is a preferred source, so this does not have to go out to public bid.
right. And we're spending the balance of the grant. So the 30,000, we're not sure where that came
I'm
from.
not sure. I'm not sure.
No, I don't know. I think we can pass it as it is because if there's money left over, pardon me, if we have to come up with town funds, then.
It would
we
have
c-
to come back.
We would have to come back anyway.
Right.
So basically, we're authorizing the
We're gonna spend the balance of the grant.
19,566.
Well, 15.5, right? 'Cause that's
No,
what's left.
19,566.
Oh, right, on everything.
Right,
15.5 of which is the digitization.
that is correct.
Okay.
And it says, basically, the resolved is that the council is authorizing the supervisor to enter into an agreement for a maximum of 30. So I don't have to do it for 30. And if something is askew with the contract, we can modify that. It just authorizes me to go to that maximum.
Well, right, but
Which I
if we
won't.
go above the, right, okay, so if we go above the grant though, it would come back here.
It has, right,
Okay,
right.
even if you do it for 30. If it goes
Correct.
above the 15.5, okay.
Okay, so we'll put as modified, this resolution?
We don't
Only
have a
because
motion
it's
and a
not the
second yet.
town. Okay,
Make a motion.
okay, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Spot.
Okay. The resolution as modified. Call the roll, please.
Councilperson Jackson?
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi?
Yes.
Councilperson Axelrod?
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter?
Yes.
And Supervisor Zuckerman?
Yes. All right, the Complex Data Innovation, this is for the, also for the town court and the administration of the summons, ticket, and permit management systems. Debbie, do you know about this?
Sorry, I was going into looking for the JCAP award. I'm sorry.
Do you know about the Complex? You want to tell us about that? This is to collect money from tickets by Rytown Court.
Correct. That this is Complus has been the vendor for the courts for a while, and the contract is up for renewal.
So basically, they collect a fee of 18.75% of the revenue they collect. So if somebody doesn't pay a ticket, they go after them and they charge this.
I think we have had this discussion, I think, around budget time, how we wanted to sort of update the system and modernize the courts and allow people to pay their tickets through an online payment system. I think this is a fantastic move forward for the town and for the town courts. I think you're gonna see a lot more people looking to pay their tickets right away, and get rid of them as opposed to chasing after people, and I support it wholeheartedly.
Okay? Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilperson Jackson?
An enthusiastic yes.
Councilperson Nardi?
Yes.
Councilperson Axelrod?
Yes.
Councilperson Baxter?
Yes.
And Supervisor Zuckerman?
Yes. And the last resolution is the addition to our surplus items list. This is from Crawford Park. Stuff that we don't need anymore, we can't just throw it away. Excuse me. We have to declare it surplus, and then we have to dispose of it, hopefully by selling as much of it as we can. So,
I just have one question about this, because I see on there was a couple of discussions in regards to the grand piano, the baby grand. That was there.
It's gone.
Okay.
it's already gone.
It's already gone.
All right.
I think this is mostly dealing with the last item, which is the boiler.
It was added to.
We're
Yeah, the boiler-
basically adding that.
I one of my suppliers that handles burning boilers, I told them about it in case they have somebody that wants it. The boiler's in good, it's in really good shape. It's not really that old for a boiler. So he told me that he'd put it on, he'd let me know if anybody comes across it. It's a good sized boiler, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Why are we getting a new one, Tommy? Because the his heating system's gonna be, it's gonna be a lot more fuel efficient.
Right,
Gonna take the steam all out, more than
So-
likely do a hydro air system.
right. It's a different system that's going in.
Yeah, it's a whole different system going
So,
in.
so there's no way we can keep this.
No.
Because it's a different system.
Yeah, it's a different system, you can't use it.
Okay. Motion and a second, please.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, hope, you gotta take the baby grand out,
Okay.
that has to come off.
Good staying
Remove
on
from
or
the
not.
list.
Okay. Are these, any of these else been disposed of, Debbie? Or these are all wasn't this the same surplus item that we had before except for the boiler?
It's just saying that the boiler was added to the
Yeah,
list.
I thought the piano was already on the list
No.
previously.
It just says the following item number 12 has been added.
That's all.
To the
This
existing
is
surplus
right.
list.
This is
Yeah, okay.
basically this is the existing list. Okay. All right, we now have our reports. The assessor, I think, has, do you have anything to add? No?
My supplier.
Dave, Finance, anything to add, except that we're undergoing audit?
That's all I was gonna mention. Our auditors are in-house. They're doing their week of field work. Today, there was 5 auditors in. And so Kathy Hamill and myself are working with them for Rye Town
Jeff.
Park in the town of Rye. And they'll be finished with the field work this week in-house, and then they'll be continuing, their back in the office work for the next few weeks and making a list of open items, and probably Debbie will be contacting the board to sign different disclosures as board members and,
I think we've gotten those in the mail,
okay.
all of us.
There may be
Correct?
additional
Right.
questionnaires, so it's important if you get those to respond as quickly as possible so we can work down the open items. But
Okay.
they outnumber us, but we're smarter and we're faster.
All right, thank you, Dave. Mr. Receiver?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, good evening, members of the Town Council. Just a few moments of your time. First of all, anyone in the village of Rybrook that did not prepay your second installment, your bill is in the mail and it's due next week, so please make sure you get that payment in time. Another point, we have just mailed out upwards of 450 delinquent notices for a combination of county, village, and school taxes. So please, folks out there, work on that, because if it runs into July, that's when your property can have a lien placed on it. So you have time now, let's try and clean them up. And just one other point, where people are calling when they're filing their income tax to want to know what their school code is. It's on the back of your bill. It's 3 digits. Whatever is what school district you're in, we have displayed the school code on the back of the bill. And I remind you again, even if you do have a mortgage company, the bill is still online for you to go out there and view and make copies of. Okay? Any questions?
No, so they can actually get the school code from going
Back
online.
of the school bill. Mhm.
But they can go online and get it.
Yes.
Okay,
That
good.
is correct. Okay?
Yes.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Nick.
Thank you.
Town Clerk, I know you have a very important announcement to
Yes,
make.
I do. The county municipal shredder will be coming to 222 Grace Church Street parking lot on Saturday, March 31st, from 10 to 1. So
So
I
if you have
urge
a
the
lot of stuff
residents
to
to-
shred, bring it to Grace Church Street and get it all shredded for free.
yes.
And I think it's a very good idea, by the way, to shred anything, of a personal nature or with your address on it. And so that people can't go rummage through your trash and find out information that you don't want them to find out. The rest of the clerk's report has been submitted, and the highway report has been submitted. We are at the point where we have comments from our council. Anybody would like to comment on any subject whatsoever, for as long as you would like? There's no time limit for council people to speak.
I just want to clarify about with the boiler. The boiler, whoever wants to buy it, please buy it. My supplier knows about it, but they contact me and I'm gonna contact the town. So the town gets the money, I don't get the money. So, just to let you know.
Set the record.
No commission, no, I just want to get rid of it. So, whoever wants to come and see it, give me a call. I'll take you down there. Your responsibility to take it out, it's yours. We'll set a price up
All right, unless we go to auction on it.
and go to auction. Yeah, can go to auction too.
All right.
So if I may,
You may.
just an update, our Sustainability Committee continues to meet. I'd like to thank Lindsay for, I don't know if she's unwittingly joined our group, but she certainly sat in for me the last couple of times when I couldn't be there to keep the group going. A lot of great progress, a lot of great conversations, and we're looking at bringing a speaker in sometime in the spring near Earth Day. So more to come on that. And Gary mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, but I didn't want the night to go by without mentioning Byron Womack because in addition to being a very impactful person in the lives of the young people in Portchester for years, he is a colleague of mine. We've been at professional workshops and seminars, and I do consider him a friend. And I just, for one, will be thinking about him and his family over the next few days. He went much too early, but I do want to celebrate the impact that he had on the children of Portchester. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Much appreciated. Anybody else? No? No. And I have tonight nothing. Except I mentioned I mentioned the Association of Towns meeting, and I invite all the council members to go next year and plan for it, as well as the town attorney. It is a very, very useful gathering of officials from all over the state of New York, from Binghamton, from up near Canada, our area. I saw other supervisors from Westchester there, and they had, the one problem with that meeting was they had so many breakout rooms at the same time that you want to go to, 2 or 3, so which one should I go to? You know, and if you have any particular interest, from sustainability things to record retention, they even had one that I loved, how to, you know, bad meetings and how to handle them, literally. And they just, Debbie and I would sit and say, which one are you going to? Which one? I think we went to one together the whole time. But there were overlapping issues. They had a special clerk section, a special receiver section. They had, for attorneys, they had CLE credits. And it was a very good gathering. It was basically 4 days, but the first and the last day were kind of perfunctory. But the 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, were all day long. They started at 10 and went out till 5 and continuous, and it was very, very useful. And I invite everybody to go next year. Unfortunately, it's over. Washington's holiday week, that Monday and Tuesday, because that's on Monday, all the town offices are closed, so the town employees can come. But
Also
if you're not skiing in Chamonix or something next year, you know, then please feel free to join us. Very, very valuable. And with that, I thank you all. Motion to adjourn, please.
Make a motion. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joe. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, our next meeting is March 20th, and where are we there? Rybrook, I assume?
No, I think we're here.
Back here?
Yep.
March 20th. Okay, thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody.